Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of my Rational Perspective. Chelsea 0, Man United 0. I feel like I'm back in October where Man United drew 0-0 with Chelsea. A lot of similarities with that game, to be honest. It being pretty dull in the end, pretty underwhelming. And both sides in the end, I think, just accepting that draw, because I think that for both sides, really, quality in the final third was absolutely lacking today. I feel tactically it was quite interesting, especially in the first half, seeing how both sides set up. I think Man United surprised us a bit with how progressive they were. You know, they really pressed up the pitch, and I felt that weirdly in a game where Timo Werner didn't come on to like the 75th minute, it's a game where you probably would have wanted him to start, especially in that first half with the space in behind. I think in the context of the Premier League season, of course, we're going to look at it and go, it's 2 points drop. You know, you're facing a team above you, you want to take points off them, but you know, once it gets to that late stage, especially the unbeaten record under Thomas Tuchel, you know, a 0-0 draw, you know, it's not a disaster really. We move on to the next game. You know, Chelsea play Liverpool, we play Everton, there were other teams as well we're facing in the coming weeks where we can get points off too, so there's a long way to go in the Premier League season. I just think it's disappointing given Atletico the other night and feeling this sort of positive momentum from Chelsea moving into this game. We could have won today, but unfortunately that did not happen. You know, I think defensively for me, once again, very impressed by Chelsea. I think the shape, the structure, I think there is a two sides to that, to be honest, because I think I could go into sort of the midfield area once again, where I think today to me proved once again why there are really no perfect solutions for Tuchel at the moment in central midfield. I saw a lot of people during the first half calling for Jorginho to be in this game, and I could sort of understand that with Man United pressing up high, and you think about Jorginho from deep, those balls in behind, for instance, to unleash, say, a Timo Werner, or even in the first half Mason Mount and Hakim Ziyech to really go at Man United. But I still have the concerns in the second half when the game turned a little bit and Chelsea was struggling to deal with Man United's counter-attacks. You know, there's the threat there as well. So I think to me just further revealed that like Kante, Kovacic does give you maybe a little bit more defensive awareness and resilience. I think Kante and Kova both made really key interceptions today, although we still saw some counter-attacking opportunities for Man United, which they squandered, but doesn't really give you the same ball progression that Jorginho and Kovacic does, especially having Georgie there. But we know the frailties of Jorginho's game. I think that's a paradox I think that several Chelsea managers have found themselves in now, and I think that's the balancing act I think for each game you've got to sort of go with and hope it works, because I think all of those players, Jorginho, Kante and Kovacic, give you positive things, but it's about sort of weighing the positives and negatives. I think each game, I think there were moments today where you could see both why Kante and Kovacic are playing, but there are other reasons why you think, oh, Jorginho in that moment could have maybe helped Chelsea progress the ball a bit more at times, you know, get out from the press. I felt at times, especially as the game went on in the second half and large parts of the first half as well, we really struggled to progress the ball, and that was down to Man United's press. I mean, I think McTominay and Fred, like they did back in October, really pressed up and, you know, stopped Chelsea distributing the ball from deep, which you have to give credit to them for. But I was surprised a little bit by the team selection. Ben Chilwell coming in for Marcos Alonso. We saw Kante come in for Jorginho, and Hakim Ziyech starting today. That was one player I did not expect to feature. I know there were some sort of murmurs about Kai Havertz false nine. We didn't see Kai either come off the bench as well, so that was interesting. And I felt for Chilwell, for Kante, and especially for Chilwell and Ziyech, I felt these were big games. I think one worked really well, one didn't. I know obviously Ziyech had that big chance in the second half that De Gea made a really good save for. That was probably Chelsea's best chance in the game, to be honest, right at the start of the second half. And it came from Ben Chilwell's real good play. So the two sort of new boys, as you'd say, under Thomas Tuchel, the two players that have been basically outcast so far, coming in and nearly scoring a big goal for Chelsea. I think Ben Chilwell was a lot better today. I think Chilwell deserves a lot of praise. And for me, today highlighted why I want Ben in this team long term, because you can play him against a wide array of opposition, because I think with Marcos Alonso, we do know the limitations. I think Chilwell's acceleration, his mobility, his ability to get back and, you know, go up against pacey forwards. Unfortunately, Marcos Alonso, even as a left wing back, just unfortunately does not give you that. I know there could be the argument about goal threat, but I think just all round, Ben Chilwell acquainted himself really well in today's game, and hopefully that gives him a good enough chance, at least in my opinion, to be playing against Liverpool. Another tough game for Chelsea, playing against Everton, because I don't think, apart from Marcos Alonso's brilliant goal against Burnley in the opening game, I don't see too much what Alonso has done to me to sort of justify his starting position, I think, especially in recent performances. So for me, Ben Chilwell done himself a lot of good. Hakim Ziyech, on the other hand, really didn't do that well. I was really disappointed in his game today. And I think you have to be sympathetic, because this is a guy who didn't last the full 90. I think probably maybe should have been taken off at half time as well. I think if Callum Hudson-Odoi hadn't been injured and taken off at that point, I think he would have been the one that was taken off and Reece James would have come on in his place, because it was quite clear Tuchel was frustrated with him, rightly so. And there were some nice moments from Ziyech in the first 10 minutes, but he was constantly giving the ball away, physically being outdone in the Premier League. Unfortunately for forwards, I know some people get frustrated by this, especially international fans, but that's the way the Premier League is. And if you can't handle with the muscle of the Premier League that teams are going to bring to you and to forwards, they will try and do that to stop you having an influence in the game. I don't think body language for me is anything negative for Hakim Ziyech. If you've watched Ziyech in the Eredivisie for Ajax, this is the type of player he is. He does have that sort of introverted, a bit like, Kai Havertz, sort of that reserved sort of swagger about him on the pitch. I don't think that's my problem with him. My problem with him is, his passing ability, which is where you want him to thrive. And he gave the ball away so many times. I think a bit like Havertz in the past looked like he was off the pace completely, which I think is understandable when you look at the context of how many games he's missed recently and how little football he's played. But that was disappointing because, I felt today being such an important game for Chelsea, I would have preferred to see Timo Werner start in that roaming 10 with Mason Mount or even Callum Hudson-Odoi up high as well. Even Christian Pulisic, I think that was a little bit frustrating. That did not work out for Thomas Tuchel today, and I don't expect Ziyech to be playing again against Liverpool because I don't think he took his opportunity today at all. But defensively, I think, seeing that three-back system, it continues to work. I think Christensen, once again, had a really good game, made some really key interceptions, being in the right place at the right time. I was really impressed in that first half. The line, especially with someone like Marcus Rashford, who can make such intelligent runs in behind and was constantly trying to throughout the game. Sometime he was a little bit more central in the first half, going out wide in the second. But I felt we dealt with him really well. And I thought Rudiger had one of his best games in a Chelsea shirt for a long time today. He was almost getting a nosebleed at times, marauding up the pitch, trying to add some energy and spark to Chelsea's attack, which was lacking today. And I thought Rudy had a really good game. He really did. Had some spats as well with McTominay, which was great to see. And Dave was just being Dave. Those small things that I think one-on-one defending that I think Dave just will always excel at. No matter what age he is, I think he's always been that good at sort of reading the game. And he was brilliant today as well. Mendy made some big saves. I don't think he made any brilliant saves today. I think the one that everyone will look at is the shot that goes through a bunch of bodies. I think from McTominay when United had a bit more pressure on us in the second half, and it goes for a lot of bodies. I'm not a goalkeeping expert, of course. I expect it is going to be difficult, but I don't think compared to say the saves he made in October, but there is a nice comparison there. Saves against Man United, and he keeps a clean sheet, another clean sheet for himself this season. But it's just really difficult, isn't it, to speak about a 0-0 where the quality in the final third, and I've been watching a lot of Premier League games this weekend, and I have to say, I think it's been sort of the same across a lot of games. There's been a lot of underwhelming games this season, and I think that, this weekend, I think personally, for me, there were so many moments where Chelsea, passing-wise in the final third, just so disappointing. Our ability, decision-making as well, I think was really poor. The closest we got all day really was the Ziyech chance and Giroud just missing the header. I thought it was unfortunate Callum actually was taken off. I think we can forget that now because Callum, I think, was a real positive influence in the first half. It's a shame that he appears to have some sort of knock, and hopefully that doesn't keep him out for a couple games because he's been influential for Chelsea recently. And that cross into the box for Olivier Giroud, and then you think about the crosses from Reece James as well. The amount of times Reece James puts brilliant crosses into the box and no one capitalises on them. You almost think there were so many times we got a cross or a chance to a free kick from deep to swing in from Reece James's right boot. I almost would say to Reece, what's the point? If no one's going to dare to go towards it, so many times a brilliant inviting ball gets put in there, no one goes towards it, and it's why we don't score. And that's the frustrating thing with Chelsea, and it still was my concern yesterday when I was doing my preview. This team lacks decisiveness in the final third. It really does, and it has for a while. And it's in these type of games where you really see it, where we're not going to get a bundle of opportunities against Man United, a team that has been unbeaten for a long time in the Premier League away from home. And they have confidence there. They were going to be resolute. They were going to be defensive. I thought Maguire and Lindelof, despite some shaky moments maybe in the first half, I felt both of them did well as the game went on. So Chelsea struggled there. But I think whether it was Pulisic as a false nine, Giroud as a number 9 as well, or even Timo Werner, we really struggled to create opportunities. And it's once again, I get back to that midfield position. I thought Mount was once again one of Chelsea's best players. But I just felt he didn't have enough support up there, to be honest. I felt with Ziyech underperforming today. I thought Pulisic never really got into the game as much and when he did, his finishing was really poor. It's probably disappointing, 2 points dropped. And when you think in the context of the season, if the top 4 race is going to go right down to the wire, that could be a critical result, really, and it puts United in a real strong position. The thing I would say, though, is Man United, I think, go to Man City next weekend, but we do have the Liverpool game. We do have the Everton game. It's just, for me, Thomas Tuchel, he's got so much attacking talent here. He needs to find the best use of them. He needs to get them clicking because, unfortunately, Chelsea, we can't always rely on world-class overhead kicks by Olivier Giroud. This team needs to be more energetic, more progressive. I know in games like this, it can be a bit of a chess game. I don't expect it to happen every week, but I think this team needs to be doing more in the final third. And I think even the talks of Haaland in the summer, I think there's enough here to make something happen and make this team a lot more fluid and a lot more lethal in the final third. I think teams should be fearing coming up against Chelsea, and I don't really see at the moment an attack that, to me, I would back to score 3 or 4 goals to really put a team away. And that's something I think that needs to happen between now and the end of the season if Chelsea want to get in the top 4, at least in my opinion. Those are my thoughts on what was pretty a drab 0-0. It's very hard when a 0-0 happens like that to really make much of the game, to be honest. I think other than that, we can talk about the drama of the VAR call early on. I'm sure that'll be much focus after that. I mean, consistency of handballs and consistency with VAR decisions this season in the Premier League, as we saw yesterday in the Premier League as well, is inconsistent. That's the truth. And I think, Greenwood, Callum, they both had their hands on the ball, to be honest. I don't know. I mean, was it a penalty? Was it not a penalty? Obviously, I was glad it wasn't given as a penalty, but I think that VAR is a mess. It really is at times. So that was really the only other major talking point in the game, but I'm sure you guys will have more to say in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this episode. One more thing, after you've watched this, go to my community page, go to my Twitter page. I'm going to be requesting questions for tomorrow's added time, where I'm sure we'll be reflecting more on this game and other Chelsea issues. So make sure, if you want to have your questions answered, please submit them on the community page or my Twitter page at Son of Chelsea. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.